Hi, Abraham. I am so happy to be here. And the discussion we're having is just flowing right into my question. I want to take this and talk about wellness of our physical bodies. And first I want to talk about an observation. I saw you in Houston and you had this beautiful curtain behind you. And I kept thinking, this is Esther, and all of source energy is kind of behind this curtain, and Abraham can just flow through Esther, and we're sort of all wearing these costumes that are filled with the source energy. And Esther's just more open, and that's how Abraham is able to talk to us.
Esther's in the vortex.
Right, exactly.
In other words, put it into that context, because all the cooperative components are there. So she raises her frequency, so there's no resistance, walks right in where we are and knows what we know.
Mm-hmm. And so
we're not behind the curtain.
No, you're right out here, and that's wonderful. So with our physical bodies that we have here and the way we function is magical. And I've heard you speak about how our bodies know how to heal themselves. And
your bodies don't think in terms of healing themselves. They think in terms of wholeness. In other words, the cellular consciousness and beyond. Cellular is even too bulky of a label for the consciousness of your body. But the consciousness of your body knows wellness. And even a cell who may be experiencing what has been diagnosed as illness or fallibility, the cell is consciousness still always reaching for and understanding fully wellness. The cells never give in. Your cells never get discouraged. But if you are discouraged, you hinder your cellular communication. That's the best way of putting it. It would be like having a whole room full of happy kindergartners with an ornery teacher who controls all of their behavior. Sort of a rough but pretty accurate analogy. They're happy little kids under surveillance and house arrest. And the reason we're putting it to you that way is because we want you to feel the robustness of the very vibrational structure of your physical apparatus. And then when you apply to that your knowledge that attitude is everything, that attitude is the happy or the dysfunctional teacher. In other words, the better you feel, the more you allow your cells the communication that they require in order to thrive. And when they thrive, you thrive.
I experience that when I'm in the vortex. I feel like a superhero. I'm like, woo, I can do everything. I can do anything. And there is that temptation to look at reality or diagnosis or something and
it's old news. Reality is old news. Don't let the old news train your frequency. Let the vortex train your frequency, because the old news eventually will be complete wellness, complete wellness, complete wellness, complete wellness. But the manifestation is old news, old news, old news. We don't care if your body is sick, if it has a diagnosis. We don't care how many diagnoses it has. It's old news. And there is absolutely no difference from our way of looking at it, whether the old news is a sick body or the old news is a healthy body. It's still old news. The dream is where it's at. The vortex is where it's at. The vibrational frequency is where it's at. The vortex of creation is where it's at. The emotional balance is where it's at. Manifestation, old news, old news, old news, old news, old news. The spa hasn't come about. Who cares? It's here. The relationship hasn't come about. Who cares? It's here. Mm-hmm. Even if it's someone that you're already living with and the relationship doesn't feel like you want it to feel, it's still in the vortex. And what's happening is old news, old news, old news, old news. Mm-hmm. The vortex is the real time, current time, present tense. Present tense is only when you rendezvous with you. That's the only present tense. That our friend came from Greece. What time is it there anyway? In Australia, it's tomorrow. How weird is that? And in non-physical, there is no time. And yet here we all are, right here, in this juncture where you meet who you really are. And the better you feel emotionally, the better that meeting is going. And the better you feel emotionally, then the more leeway you are giving yourselves to do what they know how to do and what they will always do every time, unless you hinder them with real-time thoughts that are negative in nature.
Well, and that leads me to a really good question, because there is kind of a popular belief that you should go dig around in the past, like this caused the illness, or you can go back and, in your childhood, this
we
thing or that
understand why
sort of
people
thing.
might want to do that to some extent, because there is the step one, which does cause more creation of what is wanted. But think about it. If well-being, if recovery, if clarity, if vitality, if joy is about rendezvousing in the vortex, then in what world would it be good advice to step out of the vortex to poke around in stuff? In other words, there can be no value in it other than justification that points out how bad I feel. See, I really am sick.
And then you sort of feel like you're living in that old reality.
You are.
Yeah.
Because you are creating a new reality that matches it. In other words, everything you feel, oh, here. We have not said this before, and it is extraordinarily important. Oh, we're out of time. So we talk about manifestation as being old news, and that this vortex is present tense and where it's at. And we've talked about it, the dream, the goal, the vision. You can feel the life in it, and it's the assembling of all necessary components just shy of manifestation, because the manifestation part has to come when you get in there and translate it into manifestation. Does that make sense to you? So if you are outside the vortex and you are focused on what is, you are filling your future full of more of the same. In other words, because nothing is standing still. So you're creating the same. It's new, but it seems the same because you're creating the same thing. Does that make sense to you? Mm-hmm. So it doesn't seem to change, a little bit, different faces, different places, but you're creating the same thing. That's why we want you to take the bounce of reality and not be so enamored, not be so excited about what is. What is doesn't mean diddly squat. It is at best, and it is a wonderful thing. It's the bouncing off place. But you've already bounced, and you've bounced into the vortex, and the vortex is big, and it is real, and it is real time, and it is life. And we just do not understand why anyone would turn their attention to now reality when all of this is here. And the only reason it could be is because this is vivid, and this isn't yet. It's sort of like if someone said to you, all right, here are your choices. You've got your grandkids for the day, and you give them these choices. We can go to a movie where there will be full sound, it's surround sound, it's 3D, it's this big cinema, or you can sit in the closet and think about your dreams. And any of you, child or not, would probably go to the theater because there's something more real about the bigness of all of that and the sound of all of that. But we want you to have been practicing looking forward into your vortex until this is as real. We want this to be vivid and sweet to you. We want your dream to feel alive. And that's why we tell you about the vortex, why we tell you about the vortex of creation, why we tell you about your emotions, is why we tell you about how it feels. It's why we encourage you to focus there. We encourage you to hang around. We've tried to make this vortex as vivid and as real as we can bring it so that you will begin focusing there and training yourself into the fun and fulfillment. Because, friends, we promise you, when you get forward looking, it's forward in terms of manifestation, but it's real time in terms of who you really are. And as you come into the sync with the fullness of who you are and feel the bigness of who you are, and then you walk around in your shoes rendezvousing with people from that place of connection, you'll feel like that superhero that you were talking about. You'll know. You'll feel the clarity. You'll see the response of others. You'll know that you're in the vortex. Good time for a segment of refreshment.
Thank you.